There we are. There we are. Happy whatever time it is where you are. It's just gone 5 p.m. It's just gone 5 p.m. in Nairobi. It's quite a warm evening here, and I am very happy to be here. My name is Mweteeli, and I am an author, speaker, and training consultant. I have been on this series for the last few days now. We are going through my book, Play to Win. We're going through my book, Play to Win, and we've done 3 chapters already. We've been through chapter 1. The subtitle of this book is Discover Your Unique Ability, How to Find and Profit from Your Unfair Advantage. And so this evening I've put in the information, you can see it there. If you don't already have this book, I'm offering it free of charge. If you follow the link that I have put there, you can get this absolutely free of charge, the e-version, of course. And then you can follow with us as we go along. Like I said, this already is chapter 4. We have done chapter 1, 2, and 3, and a quick recap. Chapter 1 is entitled Life Isn't Fair, and like that's already on the subtitle of the entire book. And what that talks about is that there is something you do better than anyone else in the world. You have a unique ability, a talent, a gifting, a combination actually, because none of us has just one. But there is something that makes you individually you. There is a place where you have a competitive advantage. That's what I call your unfair advantage. So that if we are competing with you in that specific area, chances are you will come out on top. Now you owe it to yourself to operate in that environment. So chapter 1 pointed out to you that you do have a unique advantage in a particular area, unique ability. That's your talent and everything. And that is based on the parable of the talents. To one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, and to one he gave 1. All of them had talent. Each one of them had talent. A lot of times we focus on what we don't have. We focus on what we don't have, which is what makes us demoralized, depressed. There is so much more that you have than what you don't have. If you started to write a list today of what you don't have, as opposed to what you do have, you would find you have so much more than you're lacking, all right? So life isn't fair means you might not have this, but you have a lot more. That's in chapter 1. And so we went into chapter 2 where we were answering the question, why play? Why would you want to compete? Because life is a competition. Because you were put here, you don't have a choice in the matter. That is just how life works. Besides, when you're operating in your area of talent, of gifting, you're in what is known as flow. You are in flow, so that there is something which whenever you're doing that thing, you forget your time, you forget yourself, and you lose yourself in that activity. You're very, very encouraged to find that thing. So that was chapter 2, which answered the question, why play? Now, yesterday we were talking about pick your game, which is how to identify your unfair advantage. And briefly, I don't want to go too much into what we covered yesterday because the video is below here and you can play it. But we talked about 4 questions you could ask yourself that will lead you to identify your area of unfair advantage. And the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do you enjoy doing? What do you naturally gravitate to? Whenever you have any free time, what do you spend your free time doing? That will usually point you to what your area of gifting is. So that's the first question you want to ask yourself. The second question is this: what would you do for free? Now, there's a lot of drivers who wouldn't drive. There's a lot of teachers who wouldn't teach. There's a lot of masons who wouldn't build, if you weren't getting paid to do it. But usually what you do for free, what you volunteer to do, that will often point you to what your area of unfair advantage is. There's people who love children, and I was giving that example yesterday. And so they wind up watching children, like during a church service, like during any event. That will usually people who volunteer to sing in the church, those things that you do for no financial return. Those will usually point you out to where your area of gifting is. And number three, what have people complimented you for doing? A lot of times, remember, familiarity breeds contempt. You possibly do not know it's a gift. It's just something you do easily. It's just something you know how to do. But people point this out to you. And I was giving the example of my friend who went into interior decor because people kept complimenting her house. This is so beautiful. Oh my God, how did you combine these colors? Can you help me? And she wound up in a business for interior decor. So you do a lot. You do well for yourself to recognize what people are pointing out to you, what people have complimented you for doing, because that will usually tell you where your area of gifting is. And number four, what did you get in trouble for as a child? There's a lot of things you possibly did as a child. You kept getting into trouble for that thing over and over. Maybe that's your unique ability. Maybe that's your talent. So in brief, that's chapter 1 to 3 of what the book Play to Win contains. And today we are talking about take action. Take action. That's a favorite one of mine. I will usually and now, if you're ever at an event where I'm speaking, you already have a clue. I will usually say, I have my books at the back of the room, and this book costs this much, and and I will usually say, this particular copy is free. And people will start looking at each other, and people start wondering, and people start saying, what do you mean it's free? But the first person who stands up and approaches me, I just hand over the book to them. And I tell them, I'll sign this after the event. There's a lot of things we could do if we just took action, all right? So the chapter that we are discussing today is chapter 4, Take Action. Now, I'm not going through the book because I've offered the book, you can download it. But I'm giving my thoughts on what this particular chapter contains, all right? Giving examples and stuff like that. I think it's much more useful than for me to start going through the book because you already have the book with you. But I remember at one point when I'd had a baby and a group of ladies came to visit me, and there was a lot of them, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, they're from church. So I'm thinking, whoa, today I'm going to be preached out. And so everybody shared something, advice on, this is how you do the children, blah, blah, blah. Everybody said something. And that the last person to speak was the pastor, and I was thinking she was going to preach an entire sermon. She read a verse I was not aware of before then. She said, John chapter 13, verse 17 says, now that you know all these things, you will be blessed if you do them. We could go on and on about how you need to change your life, how you need to improve your health, how you need to grow your finances. You could learn, you could research to heaven and back. But the things that will change your life are the things you will do. Not the things you will attend conferences for, not the things you will take notes on, not the things you will tell people about, but the things you will do. It is doing that will make sure that you get to where you're trying to go. I actually at one point gave a presentation. I was speaking to a group of people, and I entitled my presentation, From Knowing What to Do to Doing What You Know. Because it is not usually a deficiency in information that hurts us. It's a deficiency in action. We already know more than we need. But what is usually lacking is we usually do not act. I like the Chinese proverb that says, the journey of 1,000 miles begin with just one step. Just one step in the right direction will propel you to where you are trying to go, all right? So all you have to do is to take that first step. What you have to do is to take that first step. There's a quote I usually like, and I have been known to say this all the time, by Les Brown, who says, you must be willing to do today what others won't do in order to have tomorrow what others won't have. Again, emphasis on doing. It's usually in the action. Now, the first thing you want to do when you go into action would be to write down a plan. Write down the plan. Usually, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So you do want to have your plan written out. And then the next thing you want to do is this. Start from exactly where you are. Most of the time, what we do is we are getting ready to get ready. I'm researching this thing, I'm planning, I'm arranging, I'm getting all the right contacts. All of that hesitation has to do with possibly us not being action oriented, and we were going to talk about things like fear and where that comes from. But at the end of the day, you want to just start where you are. I like the analogy of waiting for the lights to line up green. If I had to drive from here to the next city, I would have to drive from where I am to the next roundabout or to the next pit stop and wait for the lights to turn green, drive to the next one, and you can't stay at your destination waiting for all the lights to line up green all the way to where you're trying to go. You move your life from one obstacle to the next. From if you know where to start, you know enough. Start where you are. And even if all you know is the person who knows, sometimes you don't know the solution, but you know the person who knows, or you know the person who knows the person who knows. That is enough. Start there. Start by gathering the information, write down what you need to do. But whatever you do, stay in action. I like the expression that says that 20 years from today, you'll be a lot sorry for the things you didn't do than for the things you actually did. You will be a lot sorrier. Oh, I wish I had done this. Oh, I wish I had done this. Much more than you will say, I shouldn't have done this. All right? So you want to start from just where you are. And like I referred already, a lot of times what makes us not act is fear. And believe it or not, it's not only the fear of failure that keeps us from starting what we want to do. Sometimes it's actually the fear of success that puts us down. You do not know that reality. You've never lived in that space. You don't know what that will look like. So you hesitate. So you find obstacles. So you find people. And sometimes this fear comes disguised as wanting to gather information. A lot of times, think about when you wanted to start something new. Like you want to apply for a position, maybe a promotion comes up at your place of work, maybe a business opportunity comes up. And so you ask your sister what she thinks, then you ask your mother what she thinks, then you ask your cousin what she thinks, then you ask your school friend what she thinks. You're actually looking for someone to discourage you. Most of the time, that's what's going on. You're asking until somebody tells you, oh my God, that's a very bad idea. You possibly don't need anybody's opinion. You possibly don't need to figure it all out before you even start. All these are the disguises of fear. Now, I remember at one point I was saying this in a video, like overcoming fear is like peeling an onion. Figure out that you're holding an onion in your hand right now, okay? And you peel off the first layer of peels. As soon as you do that, what appears? Another layer of peels. So you peel them back. What happens? What appears next? Another layer of peels. And so you peel them back. What appears next? Another layer of peels. Soon you discover you have nothing left in your hand. The entire onion was made of peels. In the same way, fear is made of fear. There is absolutely nothing to fear. Say, for example, I want to start a new business. What's the worst that could happen? I could lose my money. Okay, and then what? I wouldn't have advanced myself. Okay, and then what? I'm going to look foolish to my friends and family. Okay, and then what? You then discover that behind the fear, there is just nothing there. All right? Say, for example, today I applied to be the president. I put in my application to be the president of the country. The election is coming up and I'm running and I put in my nomination and I want to become the president of the country. What will happen? Two things will happen. I will either succeed or I will fail. What's the worst that could happen? I will fail. What does that change about my life? Nothing. I wasn't the president when I applied and I'm still not the president now. So how has my life changed? Not at all. Very, 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 very different way of looking at things, don't you think? So start from where you are and just move on, all right? Just start from where you are and move on. Now, when you practice, when you're going into something new, you might have to do it for free at the beginning. I remember when I first became a speaker, I was asking, well, the way I got into this career was I attended this wealth creation conference. And they said, we are offering a speaker's course. I had never heard of a speaker aside from a preacher. And I was a friend of mine, so I turned and asked her, do you think I could make a speaker? And she said, yeah, you'd actually make a speaker. Long story short is I attended the course. And they said, start to speak. They said, first of all, write a book, which is a whole other story. And I went ahead and wrote a book. But then they said, find opportunities to speak. Because the way you learn to speak is the way you learn to ride a bike. You learn to ride a bike by riding a bike. So I wondered, okay, where am I going to learn how to speak? Offer to speak for free. Offer to speak for free. Now, two things happen when you do that thing which you love doing. When you do it for free, two things happen. One, you indulge your passion. You indulge your passion. My greatest passion is speaking. Another person's greatest passion is knitting. Another person's greatest passion is flower arrangement. Another person's greatest passion is painting. Now, when you do for free what you're gifted in doing, you indulge your passion. Secondly, you expose your gift. It is as you are doing this thing for free that people will become exposed to your gift and talent. I like the example of a lady that I knew who loved to cook. She was just passionate about cooking. She would arrive at events and just find herself in the kitchen, even though she had arrived as a guest. She would find herself serving. Food was just her passion. She loved feeding people. And so at one point, she took over her small sister's wedding. She volunteered, and she does that in the family all the time. Guys, don't worry about the food. I'm going to take care of the food. Now, I happen to have been at that wedding. The food was superb. What happens? One of the guests in the wedding was the manager of a big company that was looking for a catering service to offer lunch to their staff. Long story short, she got a big contract. Today, she runs a catering company. How did she end up in that position? She offered her services for free. And to the most demanding of clients, you can imagine how family is. Oh my goodness, this food is like this. Where is she? Where is she? We tend to take people for granted when they're our family. But she offered her services for free, and that opened doors for her. You want to be able to expose yourself. Now, on the flip side, at one point, I had an employee. I was running a property magazine at the time, and our graphics person. We were talking one day in the middle of the work day, and he says, "Actually, my passion is in cartoons." Okay, and he said he's very good at drawing up cartoons and everything. And I told him, "All right, let's expose your gift. Every month in the magazine, draw a cartoon that is relevant to our theme on that month's issue. I will carry it in the magazine, and I will give you full credits. I'll put your contact details and everything." He said, "No, I can't do that unless you pay me extra to do it." I told him, "No, I'm not going to pay you." And I told him this whole conversation. It is when you are doing your gift for free that you get exposed. Long story short, he said he wouldn't do it. I haven't been in touch with that young man in a very long time. I don't know what he is doing. It's been at least 10 years since I ran that magazine. I still get called. As late as yesterday, somebody called me, "Hello, is this magazine?" Because magazines don't disappear. Somewhere in reception, in offices around this town, in other towns, possibly in other countries, my magazine still sits there. So somebody opening that magazine would still have been finding this young man and his cartoon, and he did say his own words, his passion was in cartoons. Don't be afraid to offer your services for free. In fact, it's when you're offering your services that I don't know how to explain this. God will usually reward your effort. Your effort is usually not necessarily rewarded with a salary, not necessarily rewarded with cash per se, but your effort will definitely be rewarded. In fact, in whatever it is that you're doing, seek to serve, don't seek to gain. Come to the marketplace with, "How may I serve?" Don't come to the marketplace with, "What is in it for me?" That is what hurts us a lot of times when you go for job interviews. You go to a job interview and all they hear is, I'm looking for health benefits, I'm looking for a retirement plan, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. And at no point are you telling us, what are you going to do for us? What you should come for a job interview with is, my skill is this, my passion is this, my ability is this, I'm able to do this for you, I'm able to do this for you, I'm able to do this for you. And then they'll have no choice but to ask, for how much do we get all of that? Come to the marketplace with, what can I do? How can I serve? And I can promise you that the world will reward you. And sometimes the people that you give your services are not the people who will reward you. I gave the example of the catering lady. Family was not who rewarded her. Somebody who happened to get exposed to her talent, her gift, offered her a big opportunity which wound up opening opportunities for her. So don't be afraid to give your services for free. Don't be afraid to give your services for free. Now, how do we overcome fear? How do we overcome fear? I've said that when you dismantle fear, you find that there is nothing behind that. Fear is just made of fear.
But the first, taking baby steps is the only way to overcome fear. Taking baby steps. I like the story of a lady once who told us how she was learning to swim. Sorry, not to drive. She was learning to swim, and she was 45 years old. Now, first of all, I congratulated that she was at that age. Most people are set in their ways and they're not learning anything new. So I was already impressed that at 45 she was learning how to swim. So she makes an appointment with a swimming instructor, and they're going to meet at the pool. And so at the appointed time, she gets to the pool, she changes into her swimsuit, and she gets to the side of the pool. And the guy tells her, "All right, get in so that you can learn how to swim." She said, "No, I told you I don't know how to swim." The guy said, "Yeah, that's why we are here. Get in the pool." And she said, "But I don't know how to swim." Can you see the absurdity of this conversation? I think she had herself. You know the way you say something and then you hear yourself? She discovered, oh, I will never actually learn how to swim without getting wet. The first step is get in the water. Just get in the water. I'm saying all of this to say, start where you are. Start where you are. Don't wait till you read the next book. Don't wait till you hear the next wise thing. Don't wait till you meet the right contact. No, no, no. Start where you are. At the end of the day, your results are never going to be about the information you gathered. Your results are going to be based on the action that you took. The action that you took. I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine who works in Dubai, and he was telling me that he had a colleague who lost her job in Dubai, and so she lost her residency. She needed to leave because she did now not have a residence permit. And so she had about a week to leave, 2 weeks, I think. She had 2 weeks to leave. And she said, I am no longer going to spend anything. I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks finding a job. And that was during a time when the market was a little depressed, like the way the markets are right now. And so she decided she was going to make landline calls. All right, landline calls in that country are free. If I'm calling landline to landline, that's free of charge. She said, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to call at least 100 prospective. No. She didn't say she was going to call 100 prospective employers. She said she was going to speak to 100 prospective employers. So if she called 100 calls and only 90 were answered, she needed to make another 10. She was not going to bed until she had spoken to 100 prospective employers. So day one, she calls 100. Day two, she calls another 100. Day three, she calls another 100. And for 10 days, she was calling 100 prospective employers every day. About 3 or 4 of them would give her an appointment, and so she would do interviews. And so within the 10 days, she had spoken to 1,000 companies and given her story, I would like a job, blah, 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 1,000 telephone calls. About 7 of them gave her an interview. The day for her to leave the country arrives, and she's at the airport leaving when she's called by 2 of the people who had interviewed her. One of them said, "You're a perfect fit for us." She said, "Oh, but I'm leaving the country." She said, "Don't worry, we are bringing you back. Just go home." They sent her tickets, they fixed her visa, they did everything. Today she is back in Dubai. She is married now. She has a family. Her residency is permanent, and she's happy. People looking at her began to tell her, "Wow, you're so lucky." How insulting is that? What has luck got to do with it? What has luck got to do with it? It takes a specific kind of determination to make 1,000 phone calls within 10 days. You can imagine that some of the time she wanted to bang her head against the wall. Some of the people possibly called her name. Some of the people possibly banged the phone on her. Some of the people possibly were rude to her. Not everybody was pleasant, but she kept it going. Your results are going to be based, for the largest part. There is connections, of course. There is lack, of course. There is your unfair advantage. We've talked about that. You're already going to be in your area of unfair advantage. But if there's one thing that determines whether you're going to make it or you are not, the difference between those who will succeed and those who won't is 90% based on the amount of action that you're willing to put in. Because a lot of people talk a big game. But when it comes to doing, when it comes to grinding, there's not a lot of people who do. There's not a lot of people who do. What we call a work day between you and me is 2 or 3 hours of work. The rest of the time we're on phone, or we're on Facebook, or we are online, or we are doing things, or we are getting ready to get ready. But actual work, result-based work, like what I'm referring to that this lady did, that she would make 100 phone calls every day. That is the kind of action that will yield results in any market. In any market, it will yield results. I'm reminded of the book Think and Grow Rich, and it has a chapter on persistence. And if you haven't read that book, I recommend that you do. I do recommend books a lot. I don't make a penny with you reading that book. It's actually a free download. You can get it online for free. That is an excellent book. I have lost count of how many times I've read it. There's a chapter there on persistence. And in the chapter on persistence, it says, if you had no other skill, but you had persistence, even if you were persisting in the wrong thing, but you had persistence, if you kept it going and kept it going, most definitely you're going to succeed. Most definitely you're going to succeed. So, whatever you do, I'm strongly recommending that you stay in action. I'm very strongly recommending that you stay in action. No amount of desire will lead to success without a specific plan. So make specific plans and then go ahead to implement those plans. Now, let me get to the points to ponder section after this page. If you're just joining us today, you know that this book, at the end of every chapter, will have the points to ponder, which is where we kind of summarize the lessons learned in that, and you put down your action steps, because like we're saying, it is in your action that your success is going to come. All right, so think for a moment. What is your wildest dream? What would you like to achieve? Like in your heart of hearts, write it down, and there's some space there where you want to write it. All right, now, if the above could be accomplished, if God said yes to your dream of dreams, you know, the one thing that's in your heart of hearts, if that thing could be, write down what you need to do in order to actualize that dream. From where you are right now, what is it that you could do today to get you to that place? Sometimes when you take action, it doesn't make sense. When you take action, sometimes it doesn't make sense. I said that how I became a speaker was I went to this conference that offered a speaker's course. Now, we used to have our classes on Saturday mornings. Now, the first day we go for the speaker's course, and they tell us that if you're going to be a speaker, write a book. Now, at first I thought that was a very abstract thought, because in my mind, writing books was something that's done by university professors and things like that. For me, it was an abstract, impractical thing to do. But when I did understand the whole concept, then I wound up writing a book. And the book we're referring to today is actually my third book to write. I am in the middle of doing my fourth. But when I finished my book and everything, and when I started doing all this, my career tended to pan out in front of me. But I was telling this to say this. That first class we went was on a Saturday, and they told us about writing a book and everything. And then they described the life of a speaker, and they say the speaker travels up and down, a speaker goes on cruise ships, a speaker this and that. And I listen, I say to myself, I need a passport. I need a passport. I remember when I went to the immigration office, I met a cousin of mine who asked me, hey, where are you traveling to? I told him I'm actually not traveling immediately, but I'm getting in the kind of career that will require me to travel very often. Now, my action there was get the passport, so that on the day I need to travel, I'll have the passport already. That's what I'm saying here. What are those things that you will need to actualize your dream? I actually had my passport lying in my bedside drawer for at least a year or two. But when I started to travel, I started to travel really often. And the first time I traveled on short notice. So it was important that I have the passport. And you're told, hey, please send us your passport. We are organizing your ticket. You're going to speak at this event. You can't begin to tell the people, I don't have a passport. They're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to take you seriously. You can't say, I'm trying to think of an example. In my case, I was saying I am a speaker. So if I'm saying I'm a speaker and then I begin to say things like I don't have a passport, nobody would take me seriously. If you wanted to, this is a good one. This is a good one, and I had this from a friend who said he was saving up to buy a car. Or did he say he was saving up? Let me try and remember the story. Yes, he was saying he would like to buy a car. And then his friend asked him, have you done your driving? He said, no, I haven't done the driving yet. I'm not very sure how I'm going to buy the car. And his friend asked him, why would God give you a car if you don't know how to drive? Straightforward common sense, don't you think? You'd want, if today you're praying to God and telling him, Father, give me a car, get out and do your driving. So the point I'm making here is there is something that you can do today towards your goal, all right? So you'll put it down in that section, all right? What can you do today towards your ultimate dream? So from where you're standing today, what is it that you're able to do, all right? List individual actions you need and tick them off each one as they get accomplished. Remember that the way you eat an elephant is one mouthful at a time. Just one mouthful at a time. Don't think of the whole elephant. Think just one mouthful at a time. And even if all you can do today is make a phone call to someone who knows the way, if all you can do today is to get on Google and research what it is you want to study, if all you can do today is to make the application to the school you want to go, if all you can do today is to register a company to do the business you want to do, whatever it is you can do today, I'm recommending that you do it. Because the difference between the people who make it in life and the people who don't make it in life is in the amount of action they were willing to be in. So that's it. That's take action. I'll see you tomorrow as we discuss chapter 5. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.